Hi everyone, we are from Group 5. Today we are going to do the presentation for our group project with the title of Traditional Teaching Method vs Modern Teaching Method. Okay, so this slide show group member. We have the 6 group member in this group. So I will begin the presentation with the acknowledgement part. Firstly, we are appreciated the advice and valuable assistance from our lecturer in choosing the topic for our group project. And we also appreciated an assistance from group member, sibling and friends who spent time to fill in the Google form for us. That's all for my part. So I will pass the next slide to the next person.
Hello, my name is Celine, and for my part in this research, I'll be talking about the Chapter 1 introduction, which involves introduction, study background, problem statement, research objective, and the significance of studies. But I will briefly go through everything to talk about the Chapter 1 of our research. So in this chapter, we will explore and compare the main topics of our research, which is the traditional teaching method versus modern teaching methods. Traditional teaching methods and modern teaching methods are two distinct approaches in delivering knowledge to our students. The overview of this topic involves examine and evaluate the different approaches used in education to deliver information to young learners. In order to do that, we will discover its own advantages and disadvantages, strengths and weaknesses in order to gain insight of its effectiveness and relevance in today's education system. Okay, so I will first talk about the traditional teaching method. So traditional teaching method typically involves a teacher-centered approach where the teacher is the main source of knowledge and teacher and the students play a passive role in receiving information. This teaching method may include textbook, memorization, lecture style teaching, and rote learning. However, it also has its own strength in teaching larger number of students in class and allow children to work together in groups and interact face-to-face with teachers and students for guidance. As a result, it has proved to have its favored by many schools for generations. And then, on the other hand, modern teaching methods are typically more child-centered and encourage active engagement and participation. This may include interactive discussion, collaborative learning, problem-solving activities, and the use of technology and multimedia resource in teaching. This method has incorporated innovative technology and active learning strategy to engage students and enhance their critical thinking. Caused some of the schools to shift from traditional to modern teaching methods. However, modern teaching method has its own drawbacks as well, such as limited social interactions, potential distractions, and lack of guidance face-to-face. Despite of being the commonly used teaching methods for centuries and are deeply rooted in many educational systems around the world, especially for traditional teaching method. However, it has also been criticized for being too lecture-based, teacher-centered, and lack of critical thinking. Moreover, modern teaching methods have their own potential drawbacks as well. A study supported by Christian Stewart Clark 2006 found that students in online learning environment may experience higher level of cognitive overload due to the lack of face-to-face guidance and the potential for distractions. Therefore, The problem segments seek to address and solve by investigating further on which method is more effective in terms of student engagement, knowledge retention, and overall academic achievement. By comparing and contrasting the advantages and disadvantages of both teaching methods, the research aimed to provide insight into the effectiveness of each method and inform educators, students, policymakers in this field of education about the most effective way to deliver knowledge to our students. So the purpose of this study is to discover and compare traditional and modern teaching methods based on the effectiveness in delivering knowledge to students. Our research objectives are to identify the advantages and disadvantages of traditional and modern teaching methods, and to compare their effectiveness, the effectiveness of both teaching methods in delivering knowledge to students. Lastly, to investigate the factors influencing choice of teaching method used by educators. So that's all from me. Now I will pass my speaker to the next speaker.
Next up, I'd like to talk about chapter 2, which is on the literature review. So the first literature that I have reviewed on is about the opinion teachers, where there are multiple challenges and choices between the modern teaching versus the traditional teaching. So the teacher realized that effective teaching process are endless, and all of them have freedom to choose their teaching method, especially with the advanced technology now. There are two teaching methods that are used by the Albanian teacher, and one of them are modern teaching, where the teacher convey concept and specific method to resolve the problem that the student face. Other than that, the student study not only to memorize the facts, but also to understand their information and apply it effectively to their life. Other than that, there are also traditional teaching, where teacher will convey only facts and application of exercises to help with the knowledge acquisition. The method have direct guidance, where tests and exams are given according to their fundamental resource. With that being said, both direct and indirect teaching are important to students, as direct teaching allows the students to be more actively involved under the supervision of the teachers, while indirectly teaching allows the children to express themselves in various ways throughout their education pathway. By combining both teaching methods, it actually makes the lesson process more effectively. So next up, the second literature that I have reviewed on is about the discussion of traditional teaching and multimedia teaching approach in a college regarding an English language. So there are a lot of advantages while using multimedia in English teaching, such as improving class efficiency and the active involvement of the children. It also breaks the traditional teacher-centered way, where children obtain knowledge under the guidance and interaction between teachers. However, there are also advantages to traditional thinking, where teachers hold sufficient experience on teaching content and method. Thus, it will allow them to have a better explanation. A face-to-face communication is a stimulative factor for children, especially when they encounter problems. They can just directly deal with their teachers. Although there are a lot of advantages of multimedia and traditional teaching, it is no doubt that some teachers are not familiar with or supporting the usage of multimedia teaching. Some teachers think that ebooks are harmful to students' eye, while some learners might get addicted due to the abundance of network informations and games, which might affect the children during their learning process. Moreover, in a teaching-centered classroom, children are in a more passive position where the teacher will only teach what they are familiar and excel in. Nevertheless, using more than one media is better than using more than two media is better than using one media. Both method properly could using both method properly could not only improve the student interest but also to enrich the subjects. So next off, the third literature that I've reviewed on is about comparing traditional teaching method and experiential teaching method using a research. So modern teaching tools such as the uses of ICT allow children to increase their participations and practice where they've learned in a stimulated environment where the usage of traditional methods are mostly theoretical and do not engage in the student personally. In this research, students are given tasks after they are taught with two methods, which are the traditional learning method through the experiential learning method, where the students are focused in stimulation of various scenarios that require them to engage in a communication skills, meeting, problem-solving skills, and others. It has shown that traditional learning method scored less in the test, which indicates the children learn less and has a more inconsistent performance. But through an experimental research, students will get enough experience of practical applications and skill of the real life situation, while through a traditional teaching method, students are restricted to learning in a more theoretical world. It can be concluded that experimental learning methods are used in order to cater the needs and demand of the society in today's world.
Thank you for Valerie sharing. So I will continue the literature review. So the number 4 is tension between traditional and modern teaching learning approach in primary school. So now the quality of education is counted by the provision of teacher and the teaching material that used by teacher and also the output of the student achievement. So from the research, teachers more prefer the learning center approach because they will know their level and the standard of the student more clearly, so they can plan the more suitable lesson plan for their children. So the arrangement in the classroom also have some requirement. So teacher cannot change the arrangement of the classroom easily or by themselves because the purpose that of each arrangement of the table have is on purpose that the children will focus their attention on the instructor. So the number 5 of the literature review is traditional vs modern teaching method. Is talk about the advantage and disadvantage of the both teaching material. So the traditional teaching method, the advantage is teacher as like a sources of the knowledge, so the children will be the receiver, so teacher will giving the knowledge to them, then they will receive and absorb the knowledge. So the disadvantage is children might have the short span of the attention because they only keep sit on the chair and listen. They will not have another activity about the lesson. So the modern teaching method, that teacher have different kind of teaching aids like the flashcard. They will have a lot of hands-on activity. They will have the experiment also, so children can interact in block with the teacher in the lesson also. So beside, the modern teaching method will let children have more attentive and children will have the good memory because they have the hands-on activity. Children can really feel it, touch it, and experience the lesson. The disadvantage may lack of the interaction between teacher and the student because the student is enjoying activity or enjoying the lesson, so they might have lack of the interaction between teacher. Okay, this all from me. Thank you.
Chapter 3, the research methodology. We have the two types of the research methodology, which is quantitative and qualitative. Our group have decided to use the quantitative as it can save the time and more faster than qualitative. The most important part is it is suitable for all generation. Okay, so going to next part is the data collection method. We contribute a survey via online and using the Google form. So for the part of population and sample, we conducted the survey for 1 week via online. The survey included all generation, especially the educator. We used the convenient sampling method, which can bring us the benefit of obtain data in a short period. So this is the questionnaire design part. We only have contain one section for this Google form, and this section included the name, gender, occupation, and education background in the multiple choice. And it also included advantages and disadvantages in checkbox style, and level of agreement, effectiveness of both methods in linear scale. So the next part is the data analysis method. For the traditional teaching method, we have the total responses of 30 units for both methods, and 0 unit for strongly disagree, 1 unit for disagree, 13 unit for neutral, 13 unit for agree, and 3 unit for strongly agree. So the next is the data analysis method for the modern teaching method. We also have the 30 unit responses for this method, and 0 unit for strongly disagree and disagree, 12 unit for neutral and agree, 6 unit for strongly agree. So the next part is the effectiveness of traditional teaching method. We also have the responses of 30 unit, and 0 unit for not effective and lack of effective, 15 unit for neutral, 13 unit for effective, and 2 unit for very effective. So the next one is the effectiveness of modern teaching method. We also have 30 unit for this one, and 0 unit for not effective and lack of effective, and 7 unit for neutral, 18 unit for effective, and 5 unit for very effective. So that's all for my part. I will pass the next slide to the next person.
Hi, my name is Wong Ko Ning, and now I'm going to talk about Chapter 4, Data Analysis and Findings. The main objective for this chapter is to analyze and comprehend the data obtained from the questionnaire using graphical methods such as in table, pie chart, bar chart for the analysis and presentation to make it easy to understand the analysis conclusion. This is the table to show the characteristics of the responders, such as their gender, occupation, and education background. Now, we will show you the bar chart of gender from the responders. As we can see, 76.7% of the respondents were female and 23.3% were male in this study. In terms of occupation, 30% of respondents identified as being in the business sector. The 8 respondents that are others, which include students, occupied 27% of this study. For educators, they occupied 20% of the respondents. Only 14% were engineering, 3% were law enforcement, 3% were marketing, and 3% were hospitality service. Next, for the education background, 30% of the respondents were secondary education background and 80% of higher education background in this research. Besides, this pie chart is going to show the experiences towards traditional and modern teaching methods from the respondents. All respondents had experienced traditional and modern teaching methods. Only 2 respondents did not experience these teaching methods. 36% of the respondents had experienced both teaching methods. In contrast, 3% of the respondents were not experienced with these teaching methods. Furthermore, 30% of the respondents experienced traditional teaching methods, and 31% of them experienced modern teaching methods. Moreover, this table is showing the effectiveness of teaching methods which are traditional and modern teaching methods. For the traditional teaching methods, 6.7% strongly agree that traditional teaching methods are effective while conducting the lessons, whereas 43.3% agree and 50% selected neutral towards this statement. Non-respondents disagreed and strongly disagreed with the study. In addition, for modern teaching methods, 16.7% of respondents strongly agreed and 60% agreed that modern teaching methods are effective for delivering the lessons. There were several respondents who held no opinion regarding the effectiveness of modern teaching methods. In other hand, there are advantages and disadvantages of these two teaching methods while conducting the lessons. First of all, is the advantages of traditional teaching methods. 74.2% of respondents selected encouraging active listening and note-taking skills as the greatest benefit of traditional teaching methods. Besides advantages, traditional teaching methods also have its disadvantages. As you can see here, 74.2% of respondents cited the lack of technology as the greatest drawback of traditional teaching methods. For the advantages of modern teaching methods, 83.9% of respondents selected use of technology as the greatest benefit of modern teaching methods. The following benefits of modern teaching methods were selected by 71% of respondents, which is flexibility. Meanwhile, for the disadvantages, 58.1% of respondents equally cited the over-reliance on technology and the possibility to lead to social isolation as the greatest drawback of modern teaching methods. Agreement regarding traditional teaching methods show that 12.9% strongly agree with the traditional teaching methods, while 41.9% agree with the statement. 41.9% chose neutral. Only 3.2% of the respondents disagree with the traditional teaching methods. Next, agreement regarding modern teaching methods. 38.7% of the respondents are neutral as they do not have an idea whether modern teaching methods are good for learning or not. And 22.6% of respondents strongly agreed and 38.7% agreed with the modern teaching methods. Next is the overall mean of traditional and modern teaching methods. According to the table above, the modern teaching method has a higher overall mean score, which is 3.84, than the traditional teaching methods as it is convenient and reliable. And the traditional teaching methods has the score of 3.65. Lastly is the pivot table. A pivot table makes it easy to summarize and analyze jumbled data into separate sections. There were a total of 30 responses according to this table. Only 7 men out of the 30 respondents were male, whereas 23 women were. The respondents' information is arranged in the table by occupation, education level, and gender. For instance, by selecting the desired choice, the pivot table slicer function can be used to gather the data regarding preferences for traditional or modern teaching techniques. Within a certain range, there will be a clear indication of the number of responses and their demographic makeup. The number of respondents who firmly agree with the statement can be calculated using the slicers. The data will be divided into categories by the pivot table based on demographic characteristics like age and profession. That's all from me. Now I will pass to Marissa to talk about Chapter 5.
Hello, my name is Marissa and I will present Chapter 5. This chapter is divided into 3 sections: discussion, conclusion, and recommendations. As defined in Chapter 1, this research has 3 objectives. The primary objective is to compare the effectiveness of modern and traditional teaching methods in Malaysia. Based on the results presented in Chapter 4, it can be concluded that modern teaching methods are more effective than traditional methods. The highest mean score of 3.84 may be attributed to the fact that many respondents favored modern teaching methods because they are more convenient and reliable. It is also found that it encourages active listening and note-taking skills. This is consistent with prior research cited in Chapter 2. A study by Farhan et al. 2018 discovered that modern methods are more effective at encouraging children to communicate and have a positive learning attitude. The subsequent objective is to identify the advantages and disadvantages of both traditional and modern teaching methods. According to the findings in Chapter 4, the greatest advantage of traditional teaching methods is that they promote active listening and note-taking skills, whereas the greatest disadvantage is the lack of technology. Next, it is discovered that the greatest advantage of modern teaching methods is the use of technology, while the greatest disadvantage is the over-reliance on technology and the potential for social isolation. The third and final objective is to investigate the factors that influence educators' choice of teaching methods. Based on the findings of this study, the majority of Malaysians prefer modern teaching methods that incorporate technology because they are convenient, reliable, and encourage active listening and note-taking. This may be one of the factors influencing the choice of teaching methods by educators. In conclusion, as the world develops, the effectiveness of traditional and modern teaching methods will continually be debated. This study empirically examines the effectiveness of traditional as well as modern teaching methods, identifies the benefits and drawbacks of both traditional and modern teaching methods, and investigates the factors that influence educators' method selection. The study fulfills the objectives outlined in Chapter 1. This study's a quantitative methodology was appropriate for the research and will be more persuasive in future studies. A total of 30 participants participated in the study, and the findings revealed that modern teaching methods are more effective. The study of traditional and modern teaching methods would aid teachers, schools, and the Malaysian education system in selecting the most effective teaching methods to implement. As a recommendation, it is anticipated that the findings and discussion of this study will aid Malaysian schools and the education system. They will be able to develop and implement the most effective and efficient teaching methods to assure a high-quality education. For example, a combination of traditional and modern teaching methods can be implemented in schools to accommodate all subject areas. Additionally, the effectiveness of teaching methods depends on the appropriate teaching methods for specific subjects. Traditional teaching methods, for instance, promote active listening and note-taking, whereas when students discuss a topic amongst themselves or take a computer-based assessment, modern teaching methods can improve their retention of what they are learning.